You mentioned the increase in homicides this year, going through that. What do you feel like that really is attributable to stuff that is or is not being done in the Office of Violence Prevention? I mean, what could be different there since you brought it up?
I think we're all culpable, right? I think violence is easy to say one department, one police department, one mayor is their fault, etc. But I do know that the 40% reduction last year shows me that we can be a safe community, that we deserve to be a safe community. And I know particularly there are some things on the strategy side we could be doing better. Ensuring we're having, and a lot of it's like very routine operational things, but things are important. So making sure at all times we're talking to the right people. And a lot of that's difficult work because in Stockton, given the need, there's so many people you could be talking to and working with and intervening in that could potentially be a victim or perpetrator of violent crime. But there's a core group of folks and groups that are currently driving the violence and just ensuring that we're constantly focused on talking to those people is super important. I think better coordination, and it's improving, but better coordination with community partners like Advanced Peace and others. Understanding that with 8 peacekeepers, there's no way you can serve the entire need in the city in terms of folks who need services, who are likely to be victims or perpetrators of violent crime. And if you can't do it, making sure there's a warm handoff to a community agency that can, and then I think just also just keeping the urgency up. Again, with the 40% reduction, there's a temptation to say, "Oh, we figured it out, or great, we did a good job," and we did do a great job last year. But this is a new year, so the same level of urgency and tenacity and focus we had last year, we have to make sure we have it this year.
Every mayor has their style. They do things differently. Some spend a lot of time going to ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings, that type of thing. Others you never see. And in your case, you spend a lot of time, I've noticed, maybe I'm wrong, you correct me, you spend a lot of time going to other places, whether it's a TED Talk or a meeting of mayors in DC or other things. Sort of explain to me or give me some context, and more importantly, Stockton residents' context about what that really does for the city.
Yeah, I think technology is such a powerful thing, and time zones as well. So there's times I've been in DC and Stockton on the same day, or I've spoken in Newark and came back and chaired a council meeting. So I think in terms of time spent outside, it's been incredibly important because so much of investment from business, but also from philanthropy, and also from state and federal governments comes from people knowing who you are in your city. If all they know of your city is bankruptcy or an FBI investigation of your mayor or violent crime, no one's going to want to come in and partner. And as mayor, particularly given the structure of government we have in Stockton, I think it's important to be the chief storyteller of the city, to tell that story to as many places as possible. So for example, Stockton is now centered nationally in the conversation about opportunity zones, which is billions of dollars of investment to bring up distressed communities and distressed places. And thanks to kind of relationship building, speaking at conferences, but also bringing people here to Stockton, we are now centered and poised to receive some of that investment. And I think that's also what's lost. I think as much as I travel and represent the city in other places, I'm also bringing people here. I think in the past 5 months, we've seen more of the government's office and administration than any other time in the city's history, and that's in 5 months. I think my first 4 months as mayor, we had 10 federal agencies here touring and figuring out how to partner with us. And I think that's important. And in terms of context, I think Stockton has to understand we're not a small city. We're 320,000 people. We're bigger than Newark, New Jersey. We're as big as Pittsburgh, etc. And when I go to these things, I'm there with other mayors, like other people in the same job. We're also traveling, who are also in these conversations, who also understand the importance of being a salesperson, ambassador for your city, but with an eye of making sure you bring something back. And I think if you look at the $20 million for Stockton Scholars, or the $12 million from California Volunteers, or the money for Advanced Peace, or the money for the Basic Income Demonstration, that didn't come from me being in Stockton, in my office. That came from being out hustling and talking to people. And I think, particularly given some of the challenges we have, with Stockton in and of itself can't solve these challenges, and we need partners at the federal, state, and philanthropic level to solve these challenges. And as mayor, one of the things I bring is the ability to kind of get people inside and outside the city to care and see how they're successful when we're successful.
Do you think enough is done really to present that message to residents here so that they can understand that clearly about what you're doing and how you see your job, what you're trying to do for them?
I think there's always more we can do on the communications piece. Definitely, but I also would argue that I'm fine with not communicating that well if the resources are being delivered and folks are being served, and whether they connect the dots or not, as long as they know that their kids have money for college, that the city has money for homelessness, that 100 AmeriCorps volunteers are coming, that 130 people are giving $5 a month, I'm fine with that.
So what do you think personally, if there was one thing you would like to improve about your performance in the next year and a half, your personal performance on the job, what would that be?
Yeah, I think to the question Don raised earlier, I think there's and maybe it's not a balance, but I view it as a balance. There's a balance between doing and explaining. And I think you can spend a lot of time explaining and hope. And I've allocated my time more towards doing. But I do think there's something to be said about slowing down a little bit and letting people understand sort of not just what's happening, but why is it happening? How does it fit into a wider narrative? Why is this important? So I'll find a way, hopefully, to do that, because I think, especially given the way attention spans work, the proliferation of misinformation, that I think it's hard to kind of get people's attention and focus enough to see like it's not just one thing, it's not just two things. There's a cadre of good things happening, and not just happening because good things happen. There's a reason why Amazon's bringing in 2,000 jobs, and the Sacramento Kings located, and the governor wants to put a CSU in Stockton, and we have a data company at the port, and now folks are about doing public internet, and we have a $12 million investment from the state to do AmeriCorps, and we have every kid in Stockton Unified for the next decade. Like all this good stuff is happening, and it's not just happening because it was going to happen. Like it takes leadership to make a lot of that happen. And I think if we took time to maybe do a little bit less and explain more, we could probably get even more public support. Although I just have a bias towards doing, particularly with term limits, and explain after we're done. Let's get as many points on the board as possible.
What did you learn of that whole Swenson issue?
Yeah, I learned a couple things. I learned, number one, that change is scary, and that you have to be sensitive and explain again why a change needs to be made. Number two, I learned that even, and again it goes back to the structure of government, even if I didn't create a document or see a document or frankly commission a document, if it comes from the city, the blame's going to be put on me. Even if it's a discussion of an idea as instructed to do so by an entire governing body. Number three, I think there's a lot of good that came from it. I know for some people it was like the most jarring thing when I found things like bankruptcy and record homicides and other things much more difficult. But for some people this was the straw above the camel's back. But I think in the aftermath the solution was a good one. And I learned that I could get people together, even people who disagree with me, who may hate me. And we get in a room just like this and say, okay, feelings aside, this is the problem. What are we going to do to solve it? Like help me think through. And interestingly, they came to the same conclusion I came to, that the city should not be operating a golf course. So I'm happy about that. And I think it also taught me the power of kind of leaning into community. That sometimes you can take a couple extra months and kind of bring people in so their body can help be ambassadors for what may be an answer. So I'm thankful, and I also was really encouraged to see the way the community rallied around an asset that had been underutilized for many years to actually do something. Like the Sounds of Swenson could have happened 10 years ago. It happened last year because people realized, oh, we need to do something. The changes on the menu of the Foxes, like all the markets, all those things happen, which are all great things, and they could have been, there was nothing stopping them from happening before. But given the conversation we were having about, hey, we can't spend, like, what we're going to do, kind of forced the action. So I think that I think is a positive thing, and I'm excited for the next couple of years to figure out, once you have an operator that keeps Winston as a golf course, what can we do? What can be done about Van Busker?